Close your eyes now. Let the day's noise, all its sharp edges and demanding voices, simply soften. Let them blur into a gentle hum, a distant sea. And in this new quiet, I want you to imagine something with me. Not a demand, just a drift of thought. What if the words you use, the very language you think with, are not merely describing your world, but casting a spell over it? A spell so complete, so familiar, that you've forgotten you're under its enchantment. What truths lie just beyond the edges of the words you know? And what happens to a soul that never learns to listen for the silence between them? This is not a lecture. This is a key. A whispered secret about the architecture of your own mind, passed down through the ages. From a man who walked in the sun-drenched groves of Athens, who saw the chains we wrap ourselves in long before we ever feel their weight. His name was Plato. And tonight we step into his world, not to study it, but to feel it, to let it loosen the grip of the world you know, and carry you into a deeper, older dream. Chapter 1. The Candle and the Cave. What your words keep you from seeing. Picture a cave, not a place of adventure, but of residence. A deep, subterranean den, where the air is still and heavy, smelling of damp earth and cold stone. And in this cave, people live. They have always lived there. From childhood, their legs and necks have been chained so they cannot move, they cannot turn their heads. They are forced to stare forever at the wall in front of them. Behind them, a fire burns a little higher up. And between that fire and the prisoners, there is a low wall, like the screen at a puppet show. Now, imagine others walking behind that wall, carrying all sorts of artifacts, statues of men and animals made of wood and stone. Their voices echo off the cave walls, a distorted, haunting murmur. The prisoners cannot see these people. They cannot see the fire. They cannot see the puppets themselves. All they can see are the shadows of these artifacts flickering and dancing on the wall in front of them. And for them, this is reality. This is the whole world. The shadows are not representations of things. They are the things. The echo of a voice is not a distorted sound. It is the voice itself. This is their truth. It is all they have ever known. It is coherent. It has a rhythm. They can talk about these shadows, name them, predict their movements, praise the ones that are beautiful, and fear the ones that are menacing. They develop a whole language, a whole society, built entirely upon the naming and discussing of shadows. They award honors to the one who is quickest to identify a passing shadow, to remember the order in which they usually appear. He is the wisest among them. He is the master of their world. Now, what happens if one of them is freed? Imagine the chain on his ankle suddenly clicks open. It is not a gentle process. He is forced to stand up, to turn around, to walk. The fire, the sheer light of it, would hurt his eyes. The shapes of the puppets would seem blurred, less real than the clean shadows he knew. He would be confused, in pain. He would think the shadows he left behind were far clearer, far more true than these strange solid objects now before him. If he was dragged further, up the steep and rugged ascent, out of the cave itself and into the open world, the light of the sun would be agony. It would blind him. He would rage against it. He would want to flee back to the comfort of his chains, to the familiar darkness, to the world he understood. But slowly, oh so slowly, his eyes would adjust. First he would see the shadows of things outside, reflected in water. Then the things themselves. The trees, not as a dark shape on a wall, but as a living thing, breathing in the wind, its leaves whispering secrets he never knew. He would see the moon and the stars at night. And finally, though it would be the most difficult thing of all, he would be able to look upon the sun itself. Not just see it, but understand it. He would realize that it is the sun that is the cause of everything, the light by which he sees the real world, the source of the seasons, the life, the very existence of all that is. The sun is the ultimate truth, the form of the good, the source of all reality and all understanding. His entire soul would undergo a revolution. He would pity his former companions. Their honors and prizes would seem hollow, childish, fought over in a world of illusions. And here is the question that should linger in your mind, in the quiet dark of your room. What is the cave of your own mind? It is built of language. The words you know are the shadows on the wall. They are not the things themselves. The word tree is not the living, breathing organism with roots digging deep into the dark earth and leaves drinking the sunlight. It is a symbol, a placeholder, a shadow. We live in a world of shadows, and we believe them to be real because we can all agree on their names. Our politics, our desires, our arguments, our fears, so much of it is a debate over shadows, a struggle for prestige in the cave. We award honors to those who are most skilled at describing the shadows, at predicting their movements, at telling us stories about them. We rarely, if ever, turn to face the fire. We fear the light that would show us the artifice of our own reality. We are comfortable in our chains, because the light, truth, is initially painful. It asks everything of us. It asks us to let go of what we know, for something we must slowly, painfully, learn to see. So, as you drift tonight, ask not what you know, but what you are unwilling to see. What chains of vocabulary, of assumption, of comfortable thought are you wearing? And what would it feel like to be free of them? And if the cave is built of the words we use to name the world, then what of the world itself? What exists, truly, in the blinding light outside? Chapter 2. The Name and the Thing, How Language Builds Your World and Your Prison. Let's stay with our freed prisoner for a moment. He is outside the cave now. His eyes have adjusted. He is looking at a tree. What is he seeing? He is seeing, Plato would say, not just a tree, but something more. He is perceiving, as best a human can, the true essence of treeness, the perfect, eternal, unchanging idea of a tree. This is what Plato called a form. For everything in our world, every chair, every act of justice, every beautiful sunset, every circle, there is a perfect, abstract, immaterial form of it in a realm beyond our senses. The wooden chair you sit on is imperfect. It will splinter. It will rot. It is a flawed copy of the perfect, eternal, immaterial form of chair. The circle you draw in the sand is imperfect. It is not a true circle. It is a shadow of the perfect form of circle, which exists only in the world of forms, understood only by the mind. Now, language, our words, are our desperate, clumsy attempts to point to these forms. The word justice is not justice itself. It is our shadow word, our cave dweller's term, for the blinding, perfect form of justice that we can only dimly comprehend. This is why arguments so often go in circles. We are all using the same word, justice, or love, or freedom, but we are pointing to different, imperfect copies of it that we've seen in our lives. We are not discussing the form itself. We are comparing our shadows. We are building our entire understanding of reality out of these imperfect copies and our imperfect words for them. We live in a world of imitations, and we think it is the real thing. So your mind, right now, is not a blank slate perceiving reality directly. It is a builder, and its primary building material is language. You walk into a forest, and your mind does not simply experience the overwhelming, nameless isness of it. It immediately gets to work. It says, tree, oak, leaf, green, bird, chirping. It categorizes, it labels, it files the experience away into pre-made boxes. This is not a bad thing. It is how we navigate the world. It is how we build science and society. But it is also a limitation, because in the naming, something is lost. The raw, awe-inspiring, uncategorized experience of the forest is replaced by the concept of a forest. The word becomes a barrier between you and the thing itself. Your world becomes a collection of known quantities, of labeled shadows, safe, manageable, and deeply, profoundly limited. Your prison is made of nouns, the words that box the world into separate, definable things. But what about the verbs, the connections, the silent, flowing reality that exists between the things we name? What is the word for the way the sunlight dapples through the canopy, not as light, but as a feeling of warmth on your skin? What is the word for the specific silence that exists between the notes of a bird's song? We have no words for these things, and so often we do not experience them. We experience only what we have words for. Your language builds the walls of your perceptual world. It tells you what is important enough to have a name, and what can be safely ignored. To step outside your prison is to practice, even for a moment, letting the world in without immediately naming it. To experience the sensation without rushing to label it good or bad. To see the color without needing to call it blue. It is to quiet the voice in your head that is constantly narrating, categorizing, judging, and to simply be in the silence between your thoughts, beyond the reach of your vocabulary. That is where you might just hear the faintest echo of what is real. The candle flame gutters for a moment, casting long, dancing shadows. A log settles in the fireplace. The story turns inward, and if the world of true forms is beyond our words, and our words are but shadows, then how do we ever come to know the truth? How did our prisoner ever yearn for the sun while he was still staring at the wall? Chapter 3. The unspoken dialogue. Listening for the truth beneath your thoughts. Plato had a beautiful radical idea about how we learn. He called it anamnesis. It is the idea that learning is not the pouring of new information into an empty mind. It is not the painting of images onto a blank slate. No, learning is recollection, remembering. He believed that our souls are eternal. Before they were born into our bodies, they existed in that realm of perfect, luminous forms. They beheld justice itself, beauty itself, truth itself. And then they fell to earth, were placed in bodies, and forgot. They forgot the glorious truths they once knew. But the knowledge is not gone. It is buried. It is innate. It is woven into the very fabric of the soul. So when we learn something true, like a geometric proof, we are not hearing it for the first time. We are being reminded of something our soul already knows. When we see an act of profound courage and feel a deep resonant yes within us, we are not just approving of the action, we are recognizing it. We are remembering the form of courage we once knew directly. This is why a truth, when you finally hear it, often feels less like a discovery and more like a homecoming. It feels familiar. It rings a bell deep within you, a bell you didn't even know was there. You are not learning it. You are recognizing it, knowing it again. This changes everything about how you think about your own mind, your deepest thoughts, your moments of clarity, your sudden intuitions. They are not random neurological firings. They are not just your opinions. They are whispers from a deeper place. They are the eternal part of you, the part that remembers the sunlight, trying to communicate through the fog of the material world. It speaks in a language older than words. It speaks in a feeling of rightness, in a sense of awe before the night sky, in a pang of longing when you hear a piece of music that seems to contain all the sorrow and beauty of the world. It speaks in the quiet certainty that love is more real than hatred, even when all the evidence of the world seems to suggest otherwise. That is not a thought. That is a memory. Your mind is not a closed system. It is not just a generator of opinions. It is a receiver, a translator. And its most important work is done not in the chatter of daily thought, not in the debates about shadows, but in the silence, in the pauses, in the unspoken dialogue between your soul and the memory of the real. This is why you must learn to listen to yourself, not just your words. To trust that feeling of resonance, that is your soul recognizing a truth it has always known. The goal of philosophy, then, the love of wisdom, is not to acquire new facts. It is to cleanse the mind, to polish the mirror of the soul so that it can better reflect the truths it already contains. It is to quiet the noise of the cave, the opinions, the fears, the endless naming of things, so that you can hear the faint, beautiful, ancient song your soul is always singing. The song of what it was like to be free, to be home, to stand in the light. So tonight, as you drift away from the world of names and things, ask yourself not what you think, but what you remember. Listen not for the answer, but for the echo of a question you asked a long, long time ago under a different sun. The fire is burning low now. The whispers in the chamber are fading, not into silence, but into the fabric of your dreams. You have not been given information. You have been given a lens, a way of seeing the world and yourself that is quieter, deeper, and more true. The words we spoke tonight are just shadows on the wall. Let them go. Let them dissolve. The truth they point to is not in them. It is in you. It always has been. It is the memory of light. So, sleep and remember. Chapter 4. The River and the Echo. Why your thoughts are not your own. Have you ever had the feeling that the voice in your head isn't entirely yours? That the words you use to scold yourself, to praise yourself, to simply narrate the world as you walk through it, sound like an echo of a parent, a teacher, a critic you once read, a friend you long to impress? What if I told you that you are right? That your most private inner world is, in many ways, a crowded room, filled with the whispers of everyone you have ever known, and that the first step toward true thought is to simply listen to the crowd and recognize the guests. Picture a river, not a young, boisterous river crashing over rocks, but an old river, deep, wide, and slow-moving, its water the color of dark tea, stained by the earth it has passed over for millennia. This river is language. It was flowing long before you arrived at its banks. Its currents were carved by generations you will never know. Its waters carry the silt of ancient fears, the dissolved minerals of forgotten triumphs, the pollen of philosophies that bloomed and wilted centuries ago. You did not choose this river. You were born into it. You learned to swim in its currents before you even knew they were currents. You learned to name the world with the words it gave you: tree, stone, love, fear, good, bad. And so, without ever deciding to, you began to see the world not as it is, but as the river has taught you to see it. Your very thoughts, the medium of your consciousness, are made of this water. This is what Plato saw from his Athenian grove. He understood that we are all swimming in a river of preconception, and we mistake the river's flow for the direction of our own minds. Now, listen for the echo. You are trying to make a decision, a simple one, what to have for dinner, and a voice says, "You should be good." Another quieter voice mutters, "But you deserve a treat." A third, sharper tone adds, "Think of the cost." Are these your voices? Or is the first the echo of a mother who showed love through healthy food? Is the second the ghost of a friend who champions indulgence? Is the third the phantom of a father who worried endlessly about bills? We assemble a committee to make every choice, and we call the committee I. But we never stop to ask who appointed its members. This is the power language holds over the mind. It is not merely a tool we use. It is the architecture of our inner world. It is the furniture in the rooms of our psyche. And most of it, we did not build and we did not buy. We inherited it. We absorbed it. We rented it without knowing the landlord's name. So what is to be done? Must we lie awake, troubled by the chorus? No. The goal is not to silence the river. That is impossible. The goal is not to rid yourself of the echo. That is where you live. The goal, the gentle, peaceful power, comes from listening, from becoming the quiet observer on the riverbank, rather than the frantic swimmer in the current. To notice the thought, "I am not enough." And instead of believing it or fighting it, to simply ask with soft curiosity, "Whose voice is that?" And in that moment of questioning, in that sliver of silence between the echo and your reaction, you create a new space, a tiny pocket of freedom. You begin to disentangle your true self from the borrowed words you've mistaken for yourself. You start to see the water you are made of, and in seeing it, you gain the first, most profound measure of control. You are no longer just the echo. You are also the one who hears it. And that changes everything. So tonight, as your mind begins to soften into sleep, don't try to stop the flow of thought. Just watch it, listen to it. Be the silent, compassionate witness to the river and all the ancient echoes it carries. And in that watching, you might just find the first and purest thought that is truly your own. And as the echo fades into the silence from which it came, a new shape begins to form in the quiet of your mind. Not a sound, but an absence, a space where a word isn't. And it is in that emptiness that the most profound creation begins. Chapter 5. The Sculptor of Shadows. How you carve reality with silence. What if your greatest power lies not in what you say, but in what you consciously choose not to? We spend our lives chasing the right words to define our world, to pin it down, to explain it, to be understood. But what of the words we withhold? What of the names we refuse to give? There is a magic there, a quiet, subversive art. It is the art of the unsaid, the art of leaving a space empty, so that something truer, something older than language can come and live there. Tonight, consider the power of the unspoken. Consider yourself, a sculptor, not of marble or clay, but of shadows and silence. Imagine a sculptor's studio, dust motes dancing in a single shaft of late afternoon sun, and in the center of the room, a great formless block of pure white marble. This block is a moment of experience. It is the raw, undifferentiated stuff of life. It is everything that happens before we name it. And we are the anxious sculptors. We rush toward it with our chisels and mallets, our words. We are desperate to carve it into a recognizable shape, to call it a tragedy, a success, an embarrassment, a joy. We chip away at the infinite possibilities of the moment, reducing it to a single manageable noun. We feel safer this way. A thing named is a thing controlled. But Plato would ask, what did we chip away? What potential meanings, what subtler truths did we sacrifice to the studio floor in our rush to have a finished statue? The word joy is so small compared to the vast, uncarved block of the feeling itself. Now, imagine a different sculptor. This one walks slowly around the block. She does not rush for her tools. She simply observes. She feels the sun on the stone. She sees the veins of gray and silver running through it. She respects the mystery of the unshaped mass. And when she finally picks up her chisel, it is not to attack the stone, but to engage with it. She asks a question of the stone with a gentle tap, and then she does something radical. She puts the chisel down. She leaves a vast portion of the stone untouched. She carves only a suggestion, an outline, a single beautifully rendered hand emerging from the rough, unworked stone. The power of the sculpture is not just in the carved hand, but in the magnificent, mysterious silence of everything that remains unsaid. The shadow, where the rest of the form might be, is more powerful than if she had carved the entire figure. This is the power of withholding a name. This is the power of resisting the urge to define. In your own life, you can practice this art. When a feeling rises, a knot of anxiety in your chest, the immediate impulse is to name it, to define it. I am anxious about the meeting tomorrow. And in naming it so narrowly, you confine it. You give it those borders. But what if you didn't? What if you just sat with the sensation itself, the tightness, the heat, the flutter? Without the word anxiety to limit it, the sensation might also be energy. It might be anticipation. It might be a deep bodily wisdom preparing you for something. By refusing the first, easiest word, you allow for a deeper, more nuanced truth to emerge from the silence. You carve a space for wonder. You leave a part of your experience sacredly undefined, and in that undefined space, your soul can breathe a deeper, older air. So tonight, grant yourself the grace of the unspoken. You need not name every fear. You need not diagnose every joy. Let some things remain beautifully, powerfully unfinished, like a sculpture of shadows, whose truth lies not in what is carved, but in all that is left, gloriously and silently, to the imagination. And from the fertile silence of the uncarved stone, a memory stirs, not a memory of this life, but something older, a feeling that the first words ever spoken were not invented, but remembered, and that somewhere deep in you, beneath the river of echo, lies a lexicon of a dream you agreed to forget when you entered this world. Chapter 6. The Dreamer's Lexicon, the Ancient Words, Your Soul Still Remembers. What is the first word? Not the first word you spoke as a child, but the first word, the word that sparked the world into being. Every culture, every mythology has a version of this story, a divine breath, a cosmic vibration, a spoken command, and then there was light. there was thing, there was name. Language in these oldest stories isn't a human invention, it is a discovery. It is the leftover music from the moment of creation. And if that is true, then the words we use every day are not arbitrary sounds. They are faded echoes of that original world-making song. And your soul, your deepest, dreaming self, might still remember the melody. Tonight, let's not think about words as labels, but as keys. And let's wonder, what doors inside you are still waiting for the right, the original, key to turn? Plato believed in this. His theory of forms suggests that everything we see in this world, every tree, every act of love, every concept of beauty, is just a pale shadow, a cheap copy of a perfect, eternal, ideal version that exists in a higher realm of pure reality. The tree you see is just a shadow of the ideal, perfect tree. But how did he believe we could ever know about these perfect forms if we've never seen them? He called it anamnesis, soul memory. The idea that we are all born knowing everything, and that living and learning is not about gathering new information, but about remembering what our souls forgot when they were born into a body. Learning is recollection, and if that is true for concepts like beauty and justice, could it also be true for language? Could the words we grasp for, the words that give us a shiver of recognition when we hear them, be tiny acts of anamnesis? Little moments of our soul remembering a more perfect, more powerful sound from the realm of forms. Think of a word that has always held a strange power over you, a word that feels different on your tongue. It might be a simple word: home, grace, twilight, river. Say it silently in your mind now. Home. Feel it. Does it simply mean the building you live in? Or does it carry a weight, a warmth, a longing that is far deeper than that? That feeling, that resonance, is the hint of the ideal. It's the shadow of the form of home, which your soul remembers in its entirety. You are not just understanding the word. You are, for a fleeting second, remembering it. You are touching the original key. This is the dreamer's lexicon. It is not a dictionary you can study. It is a feeling in your blood. It is the chill you get when a story feels archetypally true. It is the comfort you feel from a symbol you don't intellectually understand. It is the sense of peace that falls over you when you hear a word in a foreign language that you don't speak, but that somehow, inexplicably, makes sense to you. Your soul knows the tune, even if your mind has forgotten the lyrics. So as you drift now toward sleep, toward the realm where the soul is less tethered to the body and its noisy world of echoes, pay attention to the words that rise. Not the anxious chatter of the day, but the deeper, quieter words that bubble up from the bottom of the well. Peace. Release. Return. Don't analyze them. Don't define them. Just feel their shape in your mind. Taste them. Let them resonate. Treat them as the ancient, powerful things they are. Fragments of the original song, whispered back to you from your own forgotten wisdom. You are not just a user of language. You are a keeper of an ancient lexicon. And every time a word feels not just heard, but recognized, you are remembering your way back to a truth your soul has always known. You are speaking and listening in the dreamer's tongue. Now, just listen to the silence between the words, where the oldest meanings reside. Chapter 7. The Wax and the Whisper. Why your mind remembers what your heart forgot. Have you ever had a feeling? A sudden, quiet sadness for no reason at all? or a joy that rises up in you like a warm wave, triggered by nothing more than the smell of rain on dry earth? A sense of knowing someone, truly knowing them, the moment you meet their eyes? Where does that come from? It feels like a message, doesn't it? A letter delivered to your heart, but with the return address torn away. What if it's not a message from somewhere else, but from a much, much older version of you? A you from a time before time. A you that knew everything and has been slowly, gently, whispering it back to you ever since. Reminding you of all you've chosen to forget, just so you could play this beautiful, temporary game of being human. Plato asked us to imagine, long before we were born into this world of shadow and substance, our souls resided in a place of pure, radiant truth, a realm of perfect forms. Not a form like a shape, but a form like the absolute ideal essence of a thing, the perfect concept of justice, the flawless idea of beauty, the unblemished form of love. In that place, we knew these things not as words in a book or lessons from a teacher, but as directly as you know the feeling of your own breath. We were immersed in them. We understood. And then we were born. We passed through the river Lethe, the river of forgetfulness, and its waters washed away our direct memory of that perfect knowledge. We arrived here in this world of flickering images, innocent, but achingly empty. So why the sudden sadness? Why the unexplained joy? Plato called it anamnesis, the soul's unforgetting. It is not that we learn new things in this life, he said. It is that we remember them. All learning is a recollection of a truth. Your soul already knows, but your mind has lost. Think of your mind not as an empty slate, but as a tablet of wax, fresh, soft, and receptive. And every experience you have in this world, the sight of a courageous act, the sound of a beautiful melody, the touch of a loving hand, is like a signet ring pressed into that wax. It leaves an impression, a memory. But what gives that impression its meaning? Why does that particular melody make your heart ache with a beauty that feels ancient? It is because the impression in the wax is matching something. It is aligning with a perfect, eternal form that already exists deep within you. The melody is beautiful because it echoes, however faintly, the form of beauty itself. The act is good because it resonates with the form of goodness. The feeling is love because it is a shadow of the form of love. The whisper you hear is your soul recognizing the echo. It is the joy of remembering. It is the homesickness of a traveler who catches a familiar scent on a foreign wind, that sudden, quiet sadness. It is the gap between the perfect form you remember in your soul and the imperfect shadow of it you see in the world. It is the longing for the real thing. So tonight, as you drift, I want you to think not of the things you have to learn tomorrow, but of the things you have already known forever. Think of the impressions in your wax, the smell of old books that makes you feel safe, the specific shade of blue in the evening sky that makes you feel calm, the kindness of a stranger that restored your faith. These are not random events. They are whispers. They are your soul, using the world around you like a key, gently unlocking the memories you left behind. What happens to the soul that never learns to listen for these whispers? It lives a life of surfaces. It collects impressions in the wax, but never wonders why they feel the way they do. It mistakes the shadow for the substance. It lives in the world of the cave, enthralled by the flickering images on the wall, never turning to see the light that casts them. But you are listening, you are remembering, and in that quiet act of recollection, you are not just learning about the world. You are rediscovering your own eternal and truly beautiful self. Let that be a comfort. You are not a stranger here. You are a rememberer. And every beautiful thing you encounter is just a familiar face, greeting you in the long dream of forgetting, welcoming you home. Chapter 8. The Gardener of Ghosts, Tending the Unseen World. You live in there is a space between your thoughts, a quiet, fertile soil where things take root. Have you ever considered what you plant there? We are so careful with the words we speak aloud, polishing them like stones for others to see. But what of the words we speak in the silent theater of our own minds, the ones we repeat over and over until they are no longer just words, but the very ground we walk on? Plato warned us of a great imitation, a world of copies. He said the physical world we see is itself just a shifting, imperfect copy of the real world of forms. But then, he went further. He spoke of art, of poetry, of stories. And he called them imitations of an imitation, a copy of a copy, a ghost of a ghost. And he was wary of them, not because they were evil, but because they were powerful. Because they could plant such convincing ghosts in the soil of your mind that you would begin to tend them, water them, care for them, until they grew so thick and real that they became the only world you knew. You would live in a forest of ghosts, planted by other people, and forget what sunlight on real earth ever felt like. Imagine your mind is a garden, a vast, private, and incredibly fertile piece of land. This is the most valuable real estate you will ever own. Now, from the moment you are born, people begin to toss seeds into your garden. Your parents, your teachers, the stories on the news, the songs on the radio, the advertisements that flash by. They are all tossing seeds. Seeds of ideas, seeds of values, seeds of fear, seeds of desire. These seeds are like the shadows on the cave wall. They are imitations. A car commercial doesn't sell you metal and rubber. It sells you a ghost, the ghost of freedom, of status, of a happiness that is always just around the next bend in a sun-drenched road. A political slogan doesn't offer complex policy. It offers a ghost, the ghost of security, of US versus them, of a simpler, purer past that may never have existed. These are all copies of copies, ghosts of the real forms of freedom, or happiness, or community. And they land in your soil, and they begin to grow, without you ever consciously choosing them. You become a gardener, but are you tending your own plants? Or are you simply watering the ghosts that others have sown? You walk through your own mind, breathing the air of these thoughts, until the scent of the ghost is so familiar, you believe it is your own. This is the prison language an image can build, not with bars of iron, but with vines of suggestion. A man who has been told he is worthless since childhood will eventually build a house from that worthless timber and live in it and call it his own. He is tending a ghost. A woman who pursues an idea of beauty that was sold to her in a magazine is pruning and shaping a phantom, hoping it will bear real fruit. It cannot. It is a copy of a copy. It will only leave her hungry. So, what is to be done? Must we clear the entire garden, live in empty soil? No, the task is not to escape the world of images, but to become a conscious gardener, a philosopher gardener. To walk through the rows of your mind with a lantern and look at each plant. Where did this seed come from? Does it bear fruit that nourishes me? Does it align with the truth my soul whispers? Does it resemble the real form of goodness or beauty or justice? Or is it a weed disguised as a flower? This is the slow, gentle work of a lifetime. It is the work of noticing the words you use against yourself in the quiet of your mind. It is the work of questioning the desires that rise up in you. Are they truly yours, or are they ghosts you've been watering? It is the work of tearing out the poisonous plants, even if they are tall and familiar. It is the work of planting new seeds intentionally. Seeds of compassion for yourself and others. Seeds of patience. Seeds of quiet courage. You choose what to water. You choose what to prune. You choose what to let die. The world will never stop tossing seeds over your wall, but you get to decide which ones get the sunlight of your attention. Tonight, as you lie here in the dark, you are already in your garden. Listen to the thoughts that drift by. Do not judge them. Do not fight them. Just gently ask, whose voice is that? Is this my truth, or a ghost I've inherited? Simply by asking, you pick up the lantern. You become the gardener. And the first, most profound step to cultivating a real life is to stop tending the ghosts of an imitation one. Chapter 9. The Silent Choir, the music your soul hears when the world goes quiet. What does your soul sound like? If you could quiet the world, the noise of your day, the chatter of your worries, the constant hum of thought, what song would be left? Would it be a single, lonely note? Or would it be a harmony, a chorus of different voices, each singing a different part, yet somehow creating a music more beautiful and complex than any single voice could manage? We often speak of being at war with ourselves. One part of us wants to rest. Another part demands we work. One part is generous. Another is fearful and wants to hoard. We feel fractured, divided, a house divided against itself. But what if that isn't a flaw? What if that division is not a civil war, but an orchestra, and your life's purpose is not to silence the instruments, but to become the conductor? Plato imagined the soul not as one thing, but as three. A beautiful, ancient trichotomy. He saw it as a charioteer, driving a chariot pulled by two winged horses. One horse is noble and good, straining upward toward the heavens, toward the realm of the forms. The other horse is stubborn, wild, and driven by passion and appetite, pulling downward toward the earth. And the charioteer? That is your reason, your conscious mind. His job is not to kill the wild horse, but to tame it, to guide both horses, to balance their strength, to direct their energy toward a harmonious goal. The noble horse is your spirit, your courage, your thirst for what is right and true. The wild horse is your appetite, your desires, your hunger, your passion for life itself. And the charioteer is your wisdom, your discernment. A soul in chaos is a chariot careening out of control, the horses fighting, the charioteer helpless. The wild horse sees a pleasure and bolts for it, dragging the noble horse along. The noble horse sees a principle and rears up, refusing to move, frustrating the wild horse. It is exhausting, but a soul in harmony, that is the music. That is the silent choir. It is the sound of the charioteer listening to both horses, understanding their nature, and guiding them with a gentle, firm hand. It is not the absence of desire, but the direction of desire toward something truly good. It is not the negation of spirit, but the focus of spirit on a true and just cause. It is the moment your reason, your passion, and your courage all agree on a direction, and you move forward with a sense of profound, unshakable peace. This is the music your soul is trying to make. You catch echoes of it in your life, those rare moments when you are doing something you love and you lose all track of time. Your desires are aligned with your actions. Your spirit is engaged. Your reason is focused. There is no conflict, only flow, only song. Or the moment you make a difficult but right decision. The wild horse of appetite may protest, may pull toward the easier, more pleasurable path. But your noble horse strains toward what is right. And your charioteer, your reason, makes the choice. And afterward, even if it was hard, there is a deep, resonant peace. The choir is in harmony. The music is beautiful. Tonight, you need not solve the conflicts within you. You need only acknowledge the players. The passionate wild horse that wants comfort, safety, pleasure. Thank it. It keeps you alive. It seeks enjoyment. The noble, good horse that seeks virtue, truth, and beauty. Honor it. It gives your life meaning. And the charioteer, the quiet, often tired voice of reason that tries to steer. Comfort it. Its job is immense. Your soul is not a battlefield. It is a rehearsal. The instruments are all there. The music is written. The score is the memory of the forms, of goodness, truth, and beauty that your soul already knows. The harmony is your birthright. Your work is simply to listen and to gently, gently begin to conduct, to let the wild passion sing its strong, earthy rhythm, to let the noble spirit sing its soaring, celestial melody, and to let your reason be the quiet, steady beat that holds them together. Listen for that music in the silence. It is the sound of you, not as a problem to be solved, but as a symphony waiting to be played. And in that knowing, you can finally rest. Chapter 10. The Ink and the Moth. The Divine Madness of Naming the World. Have you ever considered the sheer breathtaking arrogance of a name? To look upon a thing of infinite complexity, a mystery that has traveled across millennia to arrive in your glance, and to label it, to contain it, to believe that the sound you make with your breath and your tongue could ever capture its essence. We do this every day, without a second thought. We point, and we name, and we believe the world has been understood. But what if this act, this naming, is not an act of comprehension, but of creation? And what if, in the quiet of your own mind, you are not just naming the world, but writing it into being, with a kind of beautiful, terrifying, divine madness? What happens to the soul that never learns the power of the pen it holds? It lives a life of footnotes, never the poem. Imagine, if you will, the very first human to feel this madness. Not Plato in his sun-drenched academy, but someone much older, someone standing at the edge of a world without words. The air is cold, smelling of wet earth and coming rain. Before them a creature flutters, a fragile, desperate blur of dust and energy, beating its wings against the enormous silence of the evening. It is a phenomenon, a flutter of existence, a truth without a title. And in the mind of this person, a pressure builds, a need, not just to point, but to call, to pull this fragment of the universe from the stream of everything else and say, "You are." And from the depths of their being, a sound emerges. Perhaps it is the sound of the wings against the air, moth, or perhaps it is the soft, dusty texture it leaves on the finger, moth. The word is born, and in that moment the universe splits in two. There is the thing itself, the silent, fluttering mystery, and there is the name, the word, the symbol. And this is where the magic lives, in that split, in that gap. Plato called it chora, the receptive space, the womb of becoming, where the formless begins to take shape. He saw the world of our senses as a shadow, a poor copy of a perfect eternal realm of ideas. The idea of a moth is perfect, eternal, divine. The moth that flies into your candle is just its fleeting, imperfect shadow. But here is the secret he whispered only to those who would listen late into the night. Language is the loom on which we weave the shadow. Our words are the needles. We do not describe the moth. We invoke it. We call it forth from the formless into the formed. When you say tree, you do not simply identify the object outside your window. You perform a tiny act of magic. You reach into the perfect, abstract, infinite idea of tree, and you pull a shadow of it into your world. You make it real for you. This is the divine madness, the intoxication of it. To be human is to walk through a world of unformed, shimmering potential, with a pocket full of names, and we are constantly choosing, constantly creating. We see a patch of green in the garden, and we have a choice. We can call it a weed, and in that moment, we define it as an invader, a nuisance, something to be pulled and discarded. We have written a story of conflict, or we can call it a wild flower, and instantly we write a story of resilience, of beauty in unexpected places, something to be admired. The reality, the silent, growing, photosynthesizing phenomenon, has not changed one bit. But the world we live in has been utterly transformed by the word we chose. The ink of our intention has spilled onto the page of reality, and it has stained it forever. Think of your own life, the names you have been given, the names you have given yourself. Smart, clumsy, anxious, a helper, alone. Each one, a spell. Each one, a story you are writing onto your own soul. When you name yourself anxious, you are not describing a feeling. You are performing an invocation. You are reaching into the realm of ideas and pulling the shadow of anxiety down upon your shoulders, like a heavy, familiar cloak. You are writing a character for yourself in the play of your own life, and you believe the character is real. But it is just a story, written in the ink of a moment's fear, a past comment, a perceived failure. The real you, the unnameable, silent, fluttering mystery that exists before the word, is still there, waiting behind the label. This is the power we wield in the quiet chambers of our thought. A power so immense we sleep through it every day. We believe language is a tool for communication, and it is. But first, it is a tool for creation. And every sentence you speak, every thought you form, is an act of world building. You are the author, the poet, the mad god of your own perceived reality. The question is not whether you are doing it. You are. You cannot stop. The question is, are you doing it consciously, or are you simply reciting a script written by someone else long ago? Are you writing a tragedy, a comedy, an epic, or a simple inventory list of a life half-lived? What happens to the soul that never learns this? It lives in a world of someone else's making. It lives in a prison of nouns and verbs it did not choose. It looks at the moth and only sees a moth, never the miracle of dust and light and desperate, beautiful life. It forgets the magic. It forgets the madness. And the world becomes flat, predictable, small. The ink dries up and the page remains blank, filled only with the photocopied words of others. But you are hearing this whisper in the dark, and that means you are already stirring. You are feeling the weight of the pen in your hand. You are remembering the madness. So tonight, as you drift between worlds, practice a smaller, quieter magic. See something without naming it, just for a moment. See the shape of the shadows in your room without calling them shadows. See them as pure, shifting form, Feel the weight of your blanket without calling it heavy. Feel it as pure sensation. Listen to the distant sound without labeling it car or wind. Hear it as a vibration, a note in the symphony of the night. Step back into the receptive space, the chora, before the word was born, and feel the infinite potential there. The power. You have to write the world anew, with more beautiful, more compassionate, more true words. You are not just a reader of this world. You are its poet. So write something breathtaking. And from that space of infinite potential, from that quiet before the first word was spoken, a question naturally forms. If our words create our world, what of the very first words, the oldest ones, the ones we learned before we even knew we were learning? What story did they begin to write for us? A story of connection? Or a story of a fracture that we have been trying to heal ever since? Chapter 11. The Lie at the Beginning. The first word that broke the world in two. There is a lie at the beginning of everything you think you know. It is a small lie, a quiet one, so deeply woven into the foundation of your mind that you do not even feel it there. It is the first stitch in the tapestry of your reality. And Plato, in his most intimate and sorrowful dialogues, pointed to it not as a mistake, but as a necessary tragedy. The tragedy of the first separation, the first word that created an I, and in doing so, created a not I. This is the primordial split, the fracture that echoes in every moment of loneliness, every craving for connection, every feeling that you are a separate self, looking out at a world from which you are fundamentally apart. What if the root of all your anxiety, all your longing, is not a chemical imbalance or a personal failing, but a grammatical one? A flaw in the very first sentence ever spoken in the theater of your mind. To understand this, we must go back, not to the first human, but to the first you, before memory, before language, a time of pure sensation. A warm blanket is not blanket. It is warmth, softness, safety. A single unified experience. There is no you feeling the blanket. There is just the feeling. You and the world are one continuous, flowing phenomenon. You are not a drop of water in the ocean. You are the ocean. This is the true reality, Plato might say, the unified whole, the realm of perfect forms, where everything is interconnected. Everything is part of a single, divine, intelligent design. There is no separation, only being. And then, the word arrives. It is usually the word no, or hot, or mine. It is a word that draws a boundary. It creates a category. This sensation is good. This sensation is bad. This thing is me. That thing is not me. The most profound of these is the word I. The moment a child learns to point to its own chest and say I, the universe is cleaved in two. The great flowing ocean of experience is suddenly split into a subject, I, and an object, the world. This is the birth of the ego, the separate self, the storyteller. And it is, in one sense, a magnificent and necessary achievement. It is the dawn of consciousness as we know it. But in another sense, it is the original lie. Because the separation is an illusion, a construct of language. You are not, and never have been, separate from the world you observe. The air you breathe is literally becoming part of your body, fueling your cells, before you exhale it back into the world. The light from your lamp enters your eye and becomes an electrical signal you experience as sight. The sound of the rain is a vibration in the air that becomes a vibration in your eardrum, which becomes a story in your mind. Where do you end and the world begin? Language draws a hard line. Biology, physics, philosophy, They reveal no such line. There is only a constant flowing exchange, a relationship, a dance. But language, in its glorious, clumsy simplicity, cannot handle this complexity. It needs subjects and verbs and objects. It needs a protagonist. So it invents one, you, and it invents a setting, the world. And it writes a story about a character who is in the world, but not of it. A character who must navigate, conquer, acquire, and protect itself from the world. This is the story you have been telling yourself since you learned to speak. The story of a separate self. And every problem you have ever had is, at its root, the problem of a separate self feeling threatened, lonely, or unfulfilled in a world it believes is other. Think of your anxieties. Are they not almost always about the preservation of this I? What will happen to me? What do they think of me? Will I be safe? Will I be enough? The anxiety is a ghost pain from the original wound of separation. It is the lonely character in the story, believing the story is real. Plato's entire philosophy was an attempt to heal this wound. His theory of forms was a way of saying, look, the separation is an illusion. The perfect form of beauty is not out there. It is in here. It is the reality we all share. The world of appearances, the world of me and mine, is a shadow. Reality is the unified whole. He wanted to use reason, to use dialectic, to guide the soul back to a remembrance of its true connected nature, to escape the cave of separation and see the sun of unity. But we live in the cave. We live in the story, and the words we use constantly reinforce the lie of separation. I have to find myself, as if you are lost in the world, and not of the world. I need to protect my energy, as if your energy is not the same energy that moves the stars and the tides, simply configured as you for a little while. I am against that, creating opposition, duality, conflict, where there might only be difference. The soul that never questions this lives a life of profound loneliness. It is a character in a story that feels real, with real pain and real struggle, but never knows the peace of remembering it is also the author, the paper, the ink, and the room in which the story is being told. It is like a wave in the ocean, desperately trying to protect its own unique shape, fearing the moment it will crash back into the sea, never realizing that it is the sea. Its entire existence is a fight against its own nature. You tonight are being given a chance to question the first word. You don't have to abandon language. You can't. But you can use it differently. You can become aware of the story. You can notice when your words are building walls and when they are building bridges. You can feel the truth in the spaces between your words, in the silence after the rain, in the breath that is both in you and around you, in the feeling of oneness just before you name the feeling. Try it now. Feel your body against the sheets. Feel the pressure. Now, instead of thinking, I am feeling the sheets, just feel the feeling. Let the I dissolve. Let there be just feeling, pressure, softness, warmth, no subject, no object, just experience. For a fleeting second, the lie is suspended. The wound is healed. You are back in the ocean before the first word broke the world in two. This is not something to achieve, but something to remember, a truth your body never forgot. Your mind, with its beautiful, tragic words, is the only thing that ever left, and it can, in any moment, come home. And in that homecoming, in that silent, wordless space, you might hear something else. A faint sound that is not a sound. A presence that is your own, yet feels ancient. It is not the story of separation, nor the bliss of unity, but something else entirely, the unique, humming signature of the soul itself before it was named. A melody in the labyrinth of your being, waiting to be followed. Chapter 12. The Echo in the Labyrinth. Finding your way back to the unnamed self. We have spoken of the world you name and the separation that naming brings. But there is a third space, a quieter one. It is not the world of things, and it is not the world of ideas. It is the interior world, the labyrinth within. And every one of us is born as the center of our own labyrinth. Not a center of ego, but a center of being, a quiet, radiant point of consciousness. And when we are very young, we live there. We are the center. And the labyrinth is not a prison. It is our entire world, a universe of wonder and sensation. But as we grow, we are given a map. This map is made of language. It has labels on all the walls. This way to happiness. Danger, sadness this way. This corridor is your talent. This door is forever locked. That is your fear. Very quickly, we stop exploring the labyrinth and we start following the map. We forget the center. We get lost in the corridors, reading the labels on the walls, thinking the labels are the walls. We become obsessed with the map. We forget the territory. We forget the feel of the cool, ancient stone under our own hands. We forget the sound of our own breath in the silent passages. We forget that we are the center, and we come to believe we are just a lost traveler, holding a confusing map, trying desperately to find a way out. But Plato's genius was to suggest that the goal is not to find a way out of the labyrinth, but a way back to its center. To remember who and what resides there, not the ego, not the story, but the unnamed self. This journey back is not a journey of acquisition, but of subtraction. It is a process of silencing the names, of ignoring the map, of getting lost in order to be found. It is about listening not to the voices on the walls, but to the echo, your own echo. The sound your soul makes when it is not speaking any language, when it is simply being. This echo is the most reliable guide you have. It is not a thought. It is a feeling, a knowing, a pull, a resonance. You have felt it. It is the feeling of rightness when you make a decision that is true for you, even if it makes no sense on the map. It is the deep calm that descends when you are doing something that utterly absorbs you, and the noisy labels of I am working, I am hobbying, fall away. It is the pang of sorrow when you betray yourself, when you follow the map instead of the echo. That sorrow is not a punishment. It is a homing signal, a gentle, painful tug back toward your center. Plato called this process anamnesis, a word that means not just remembering, but unforgetting. He believed that our souls knew the truth before we were born, and that learning was merely a process of remembering what we have always, deep down, known. The echo in your labyrinth is that memory. It is the memory of your true name, the one that was never spoken, because it does not need to be. It is the memory of the unity before the first word. Your personal journey is to follow that echo through the twisting halls of your conditioning, your past, your fears, and your borrowed identities, to shed them like old coats that no longer fit. The walls of your labyrinth are covered in writing. You are not good enough. You must be kind. You are a failure. You are a success. You are what you have achieved. You are what they think of you. These are not truths. They are graffiti, scrawled by parents, teachers, friends, enemies, culture. Your work is not to read them, but to wipe them clean, to feel the cold, blank stone beneath, to make the walls silent again, so that the only thing left is the echo, your echo, the sound of the center calling to itself. How do you do this? You get quiet. You sit in the dark like this, and you let the map fall from your hands. You stop telling yourself the story of who you are. You stop naming yourself. You simply listen. And at first, you will hear only the noise, the replay of conversations, the worries, the lists. This is the chatter of the corridors, the labels on the walls shouting for attention. But if you listen past them, if you let them be without fighting them, without following them, they will, like all noises, begin to fade. And in that silence, you will hear it, a faint, pure tone, a vibration, the echo. It will guide you, not with words, but with feeling. A sense of warmer or colder. It will pull you away from the corridors labeled approval and toward the ones that feel authentic, even if they are scary, even if they are dark and the map says, do not enter. The echo does not promise safety, it promises truth, and the soul that never learns to listen for it lives its entire life in a single well-lit corridor near the entrance. It lives according to the map. It has a life that looks good on paper, but it never knows the treasures hidden in the deeper chambers. It never visits the room of profound peace. It never discovers the gallery of its own latent creativity. It never rests in the center, in the quiet, radiant chamber of the self, where all is known and all is well. It dies, having only read about the labyrinth, never having truly explored it. You are exploring it now, in the darkness, in the quiet. This listening is the exploration. Your breath is your footsteps. Your heartbeat is your compass. You are not trying to get anywhere. You are just practicing the feeling of being in the labyrinth without a map, trusting the echo that is your unspoken truth, the name you had before you were born, the self that exists before the story. So let the words fade. Let the labels on the walls blur and disappear. There is no you that is anxious. There is no you that is successful. There is only the labyrinth and the center and the echo between them. Follow it down, deeper into the quiet, into the dark, into the peace that has been waiting for you all along, at the very center of your own being. It has always been there. You just forgot the way. Now, remember, listen. The echo is calling, and all you have to do is follow.